Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Annalisa and this is Homemade Sunshine. So in this week's video, I'm going to be reviewing all the books I've read for the months of September and October. Only one library book in this bunch and then a large stack of books. Let me go ahead and show you. They are quite heavy. And oh my gosh, if I can actually hold them up. Hold on. Oh, let's just hold it up like that. You can kind of see it. It's really hard to hold all of those up. I have been reading a lot. As the weather gets colder, I will be reading even more. That's usually how it goes for me. But I've read a lot of books, so first let's jump to my library book review right here. Hey y'all, so I've got a library book recommendation here for y'all. I haven't been going as much, you'll see, in the past 2 months because, well, I'm trying to read through a lot of the books that I have at home, but I have been going recently, so I will share with you guys one of the books that I just finished reading that was really good. This one is called The Apron Book, Making, Wearing, and Sharing a Bit of Cloth and Comfort, which I'm covering up where my library is just for my own privacy. It is super cute. It's just all about, it talks about the history of aprons, who's used aprons. It shows so many cute and beautiful vintage aprons. Let me show you one of my favorites. It also has lots of sewing tutorials. It even comes with a pattern. Of course, I'm not going to be able to keep the pattern because it's a library book. This was one of my favorites. It's a waist apron with pot holder tulips. Look at that. Isn't that so cute? And then there'll be stories from different people, like here, talking about remembering their family members wearing aprons. That one's actually Julia Child talking about that. And it gives lots of different ideas of how to jazz up vintage aprons, tells you how to store and care for vintage aprons. And yeah, it's a beautiful book. It's not super long. It's about 130 pages, give or take. And it comes in the back with the apron book for a bib apron, I believe, for the pattern is what comes with it. And it's by Ellie N. Geisel? I think it's Geisel, but I'm not entirely sure. But it was super fun, very fun homemaking kind of book, and I would definitely recommend it. It was very cute. And I loved hearing about all the history of it and all the different ways that women over the years cherished and jazzed up their aprons, and seeing so many beautiful, different, really cool, different styles of vintage aprons. So I definitely recommend this book. Okay, now that you're back, let's start reviewing some books. First is Celia Rivenbark, You Don't Sweat Much for a Fat Girl, Observations from the Shallow End of the Pool. So she is a comedic writer. I think this book was published in 2008, roundabout there. Let me see. I've read quite a few Celia Rivenbark books. I've read We're Just Like You, Only Prettier, and I've read, I think Bellwether is the other book that I've read. She has a lot of very comedic titles. Not 2008, 2011 was when this book was published, and it's hilarious. The book is about a little less than 250 pages, so not super long. It's a good book to pick up and put down because the chapters are like stories in and of themselves, so they're not connected. So if you pick it up and read it for a little bit and don't pick it up again for 3 months, it's not like it's a big deal. Here are some funny chapter titles just to kind of show what you're getting into. Also, for reference, some of it is, of course, it's not very politically correct. Not even for the time was it very politically correct, but of course it's super not politically correct now. But it's very funny. It's a lot of very distinctly Southern humor. But here's some of the chapter titles. Taking the Class Out of Yoga. Moral Fiber Can't Help Your Colon. Bitter Party of Me. Give Us Your Poor, Your Tired, Your Kinda Creepy Masses. Lost in Space. She Drives Me Crazy, parentheses, shaving time off the commute. So she is very funny. Her titles for her chapters are also quite silly, but it's a good book. It says I like the front of it. It said, opening a book by Celia is like going to a great party. And I agree. She's very funny. Here she is on the back. She's just hilarious. I found her very funny. This is actually a former library book. I don't even know what library this came from, but somebody's library. Oh, actually, I think it's Seattle's. public library. So, even though I've never lived in Seattle, that's funny that it's made it all the way over here. But, good book. I would recommend it. Unless you get offended easily, then I wouldn't. Then I wouldn't recommend it. Next, I've got I Wouldn't Live Nowhere, I Couldn't Grow Corn by Patty Smith Deal Fulton, which, of course, a title like that is going to suck you in. So, Patty Smith Deal Fulton, this is another former library book, this one from Greenville, Tennessee. She had a newspaper column called Patty's Corner in the Jonesboro Herald and Tribune, the Irwin Record, and the Mountain City Tomahawk. And the book is split up into all of her articles, and it's split into what year it was. So like this is chapter 1, and these are all article titles. And then you can see that's how they're split up on the page. And it's very good. I think it's really neat to hear somebody writing about like life in their modern age, even though it's not our current modern age. And it's very funny. It's nice to hear stories of, you know, back in the day. And I think it goes all the way up. I think 1989 is where they stop. I think with this book, it's also almost 200 pages. Yeah, I think 1989 is the last year that this book covers. And it's just funny. It's good, I would say, Appalachian, mountain, southern humor. And some of it is more, you know, funnier. Some of it's more humorous than others. Some of it's a little bit more serious, but it is very, very good. There's even some recipes in here in a couple of different places. And it's just so sweet. My favorite quote, this is here at the very end, that it's talking about, she said, I don't know who wrote this. I saw it on a Miles Kimball Christmas catalog, and I offer it to you. So this is talking about Christmas, since we're getting close to Christmas here. I wish you light snows and twinkling lights, a home alive with cookie smells, a child to play with, a dog to pet, in the hope of answered prayers. Which honestly almost makes me want to cry. It's a very good book. There's a lot of sweetness and a lot of humor, and I love that about it. And it's cute to hear you're reading and you're imagining like this little old lady writing this sweet, funny column. Next, this is a children's lit book. It's Mandy by Julie Edwards, which, if you look on the back, it's Julie Andrews Edwards, aka Sound of Music Mary Poppins Julie Andrews. I didn't even know she'd written children's books, but this book is Mandy, and it is about an orphan who, she's the oldest child in the orphan at 10 years old, and she finds a deserted cottage in the woods, and she feels like she's finally at last got a place to call home, and it's so good. It's beautiful. The descriptions of the scenery are really beautiful. I think this is great for children, or it's also great for adults. I loved it. It's very quick to read. It's only 270 some pages, but it's, you know, written for children. So for an adult, it's a much quicker read. And it's just beautiful. I mean, the imagery is beautiful. I think the story itself is quite sweet. The adventures that she gets to go on through this cottage are just wonderful. And, you know, the mystery of why is this cottage abandoned? Whose was this originally? All of that stuff is answered and explained. And it's a beautiful book. I'd highly recommend it. I feel like it's very like Anne of Green Gables-esque. It's in that same vibe. So if you like that, you'll probably like this. All right, let me pull the next one from my pile. Okay, let's intersperse some of these that were good with a book I didn't care for that much, which was The House at Tinneford. I really didn't care for this. I liked 3/4 of it, and then the last quarter I said, ugh, not really a fan. So it begins in spring of 1938, and you're following, I think it's Elise, is how you say the name, Elise, who is Jewish. It's no longer safe for her to be in Vienna, and she is leaving on like a maid's visa. I don't know what that's called necessarily, but like a visa where she's gonna go work at the House of Tinneford as a maid. She's never been a maid. That's not even her lifestyle. The war is coming, and then there starts to be a little bit of a romance between her and somebody who lives in the big house, which is not giving anything away because this is revealed on the back of here. So that's not giving anything away. So that's kind of what I was thinking was going to happen, was going to be more of like her trying to adjust to life, working in like an English, I would say Downton Abbey type setting, which there was, and that part I liked because that was like very interesting, you know, somebody coming from a very different life to this. And then her falling in love with somebody she's not supposed to, or starting to even have feelings or liking somebody. That was neat. That was interesting. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but it goes in a direction I like never would have guessed, and I didn't like it at all, honestly. Like I felt like I wasted my time reading the book because the ending was so bizarre, and I was just thinking to myself, like, when has this ever happened? I mean, I don't know. It's weird. Just trust me, I did not like this book. I thought the ending was weird. Because I said, like, fans of Downton Abbey, which I've not watched all of Downton Abbey, but I've seen clips of it, and I do think it's, like, an interesting show. There's parts of it I'm not a fan of. But, like, that part of it, like, with, like, the staff and how things were run, that's very interesting. But, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. The ending is weird. I wish I could tell you. Yeah. So, I don't know. How about this? I'll say what the ending is, and if you don't want to hear it, just skip ahead like, just, I don't know, 30 seconds from here. Okay, go ahead and skip it if you don't want to hear it. Here's the ending. The young man she falls in love with, that is her age, dies in the war, you know, not shocking. She ends up marrying his dad, which is the most bizarre thing ever. I was like, what on earth? She's marrying his dad? So yeah, okay. You're officially done. It's skipped. We can come back to normal. But I just wanted to reveal that for anybody that wanted to know what I couldn't have possibly liked about that book. But that's what it was. Next is Seattle's Market Ghost Stories, which I read this because I thought it would be neat coming up near Halloween. And I liked part of it. Part of it got too creepy and occulty for me, like woo-woo, witchy, crystal-y, that sort of new agey stuff for me. I liked more of, I don't mind ghost stories of like the historical things where you like learn about people who were there in the past and all of that sort of thing, because that interests me, like individual people who were there and lived in that area. That's interesting. So that part was cool. But the other stuff got a little bit weird, and I honestly didn't even like want to read it. So I don't recommend this. It's not my favorite, to be very honest, which I feel bad to say. I always feel bad. Other people I'm sure love that book. I'm sure she doesn't need me to say that it's amazing. I only read one Guideposts Mysteries of Martha's Vineyard book this month. It was great. The reason I only read one is because the next book is set at Christmas time, and this was set at Thanksgiving, and I was like, oh, I better take a break so I can read the Christmas one at Christmas time. So there's a Congressional Medal of Honor for a resident of Martha's Vineyard, and it goes missing at a major event. So now Priscilla has got to figure out what has happened to this medal. It was so good. There were so many twists and turns and things you just didn't expect to happen. And it does have a happy ending. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I always love a happy ending. That's why I love Guideposts. The ending's always going to be happy. There's not going to be any weird stuff like what happens at the end of this book. So loved that. It was great. Next was the devotional, Women of Faith, Infinite Grace. I love Women of Faith devotionals. I've not disliked one yet. I loved Outrageous Joy. I think that one is my favorite. But this was also wonderful. It was all about infinite grace. This one is also in memory of Barbara Johnson, so there's a lot of sweet messages to her at the end. But it's split by sections, talking about different types of grace, like unfathomable grace. What's one of the others? Boundless grace. So they're divided by sections. And it'll include a verse, a prayer at the end, and then a story. And their stories are always so sweet. They just feel like such like real women who have like really lived through some things, and that I appreciate. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like some people, you feel like they don't have any, they haven't had any real struggles to pull from to relate to a lot of other people, whereas a lot of these women have really had some hard things happen in their lives, and it helps them to be even more compassionate and relatable to others. There's some stories in here that'll make you tear up, and there's ones that'll make you laugh, and it's just amazing. So next is Country Living, The Peaceful Home. And this book is one of my last decor books, finally. And I actually really like this one. Now, some of the pictures are going to be, of course, dated and odd, but like this kitchen, I love this with these beautiful green gingham curtains. Oh my heck, I love that. I also love a yellow kitchen. But then there's pictures like this, and I think to myself, nobody's doing this right now. You know, nobody's doing a diamond orange pattern on the back of their wall. So, two juxtapositions. But I love like vintage or just outdated decor books. Like, I don't know when let's see when this one was published. This one was published in 1998. So officially, it's vintage because it's over 20 years. It's fun to see what still looks and is considered like fashionable and would be beautiful in somebody's home, because it's really classic if it still looks beautiful after over 20 years. Which I guess it would be, what, 25 years old? So that's pretty, almost 26. So very cool. Loved that. Next is a daily grace devotional, The Fruit of the Spirit. Walk by His Spirit, bear His fruit. You'll have heard me say I love daily grace devotionals many a times. I loved this one. This is a nice short one. I think it's only 4 weeks. Maybe it's 3. Let me see. Let me look. I think it's 3 weeks. Some of them are 5, some are 4, some are 3. So this is a short one. And it is, like it says, just leading you through the fruits of the Spirit. It gives you some context to some of them, explains some of them better. And the pictures are just beautiful. Let me show you one graphic that I really liked. The Greek words and translations of the fruits of the Spirit was very neat. I liked that. And it's just a good book. I really recommend these. They go on sale all the time. They have the $5 and $10 sale. I probably only paid $5 for this. And then last but not least is this book. So I'm only reviewing 2 of the books because I only read 2 of the books. I've read all 3 since, but I read the 3rd one in November, so it can't be included in this. But I've read 2 of these books in this. It's an album with the first 3. I think this is books 4, 5, and 6 in the Elm Creek Quilter series. So I'm reviewing The Runaway Quilt and The Quilter's Legacy, a master quilter I only just finished. So I loved The Runaway Quilt. It was really awesome. It really focused on the character Sylvia and her trying to find her mother's old quilts and the adventures that the methods, the means that she has to undertake to try to find these. And it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful story, and it flashes back in time to when her mother was making these quilts, and you learn more about her mother's life. And it's just really neat. I love the historical context of learning about when she made each of these quilts. So I loved that story. I like a story that flashes back between present and a historical time. That's really fun. And then, oh, y'all, that's for the wrong title. That's Quilter's Legacy. I'm so sorry. That's the Quilter's Legacy. That's my bad. The Runaway Quilt is that they find Sylvia's great grandmother's quilt that, according to legend, was a sanctuary for escaping slaves. And it's her trying to discover what these old quilts, because there's 3 quilts she finds, what they mean and what they related to slavery. And she also finds does it say, is this going to be revealing too much? It says, yeah, that'll be revealing too much. So let me not say that. But it does end up flashing back in time with her ancestors at the time, and you get to hear from their end pre-Civil War and during part of the Civil War. It's mostly set right before it starts, the Civil War, and how these quilts came to be and what their purposes were for, and kind of how Elm Creek Manor comes to be. So, loved that book too. I'm so sorry I switched the two names. So, we'll do a quick rundown again of recommendations. Loved The Runaway Quilt, loved Quilter's Legacy, loved The Fruit of the Spirit by Daily Grace. I did enjoy The Peaceful Home by Country Living. I wouldn't go out of my way to purchase it, but I enjoyed it as a secondhand find. Loved Women of Faith, Infinite Grace. Highly recommend it. It's beautiful, make you laugh, make you cry. Loved Making Waves. This was a great book. I love anything guidepost. The House at Tenaford, weird, didn't care for it, bizarre. Seattle Market Ghost Stories, didn't care for that either. Mandy by Julie Edwards, lovely, sweet, beautiful tale. I Couldn't Live Nowhere, I Couldn't Grow Corn. Very nice story, loved it, and you don't even have to be from the area that she's writing from to understand it. And You Don't Sweat Much for a Fat Girl, also very funny. Maybe wouldn't read this out in public at the doctor's office, but a very good book nonetheless. So in total, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books. 12, I guess, with the other library book for the past 2 months. So that's a lot of books, honestly. That's more than I anticipated. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and leave me a comment down below. Who is your favorite author, favorite prolific author that's written a whole lot of books? I love Celia Rivenbark for funny books. I really like Jennifer Shiverini, who does Elm Creek Quilters. I actually just thrifted a book that is outside of her normal Elm Creek Quilter series, because she does write a few historical fiction books that are outside of that, and I'm looking forward to trying that to see if I like her outside of the series. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.